Buying used lenses is a good way to have access to good quality gear with a fair price. In fact, I buy a lot of my gear used, and I've also sold some of my lenses to Fujifilm users or to resellers. But I can understand that it can be quite scary to buy used lens and run the risk to have a piece of gear that has a functional issue, a scratch, or any kind of problem that we did not see before the purchase. So in this video, I want to share with you the 5 checks that I always do before buying a used lens. So the first thing that I always do is to check for scratches on the back and the front element of the lens. So in this first step, you first want to clean the back and the front element of your lens using a microfiber cloth or an air blower, and then inspect those elements for scratches. If you don't see any scratches on those elements, that's a good sign. However, I will still advise you to bring your camera and take some pictures with the lens. I usually bring my camera and my laptop so that after trying out the lens in the shop, I can go to a nearby cafe and inspect the different pictures that I got on a bigger screen. That way I'm sure that I don't miss any artifact that could be created by a defect on the lens. Okay, so now let's talk about fungus and dust. So we're now going to check the elements inside of the lens. So once again, I want you to make sure that the front and the back elements of your lens are completely clean. Take your phone or any other flashlight that you have and direct it directly to your lens. I want you then to look through your lens with the flashlight on the other side, and I want you to inspect for any artifact that you could see there, whether it's dust or maybe some fungus that formed within the lens. If you see anything in there, don't panic yet. Again, make sure to take a few pictures with the lens to make sure that you don't see any artifact at the different range of focal length and aperture. However, I want you to realize that if there is already some fungus in there, it might get bigger in the future. And if it's inside the lens, the only way to solve this problem is to send it to a professional. So this is an additional cost that you might want to consider in the purchasing price of your lens. Alright, so now let's talk about the lens mount. So there are two parts that constitute the lens mount, right? The mechanical part and the electronic part. When you look at the mechanical part, I want you to make sure that the metal itself is not completely worn out. The metal being worn out is an indication of how much the lens has been mounted and unmounted from a camera. If it is too worn out, you might have some difficulties to attach it to your camera. So make sure that there is no issue there by inspecting it and mounting it to your camera. When it comes to the electric part, you need to make sure that the contact between the camera and the lens is done properly. So I want you, for example, to mount this lens to your camera and make sure that the information of the lens is correctly displayed on your screen. For example, the aperture value. And if you see that there is a communication error between the camera and your lens, then it might be due to the fact that either it's the wrong mount, right? Or that the lens doesn't communicate with your camera, or that if it actually does, that there is a problem within the mount. So if this video is helpful to you so far, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to get my videos out there to as many people as possible. So if you can help me do that, that would be greatly appreciated. Alright, so now let's talk about aperture and autofocus. So again, if you want to test autofocus with your lens, of course, you need to make sure that the lens supports autofocus and that you have a compatible mount for the lens that you want to purchase. So always bring the camera that you intend to use with you when you're gonna try out the lens. Try to shoot both stills and videos using different autofocus mode and make sure that the camera is able to autofocus properly using the lens. Also, try out the different aperture range. Verify that the exposure is properly changing and that the aperture blade within the lens are closing and opening depending on the value. I want you to do this particular test using both the aperture rings and the menu system within your camera to make sure that they are both compatible with the lens that you're trying to purchase. Alright, and finally, we're coming to the lens barrel. You want to also pay attention to the lens barrel itself and look for some potential scratches or traces of impact that may have damaged the alignment of the different elements within the lens. So check out the different rings of the barrel, make sure that they are not displaced. And also, if you're buying a WR lens, meaning weather resistant lens, you might want to inspect the different joints to make sure that they are not damaged, cut, or have any holes in them. And after all these checks, if you are happy with the results that you get with the lens, if it functions properly, then sure, go for it. But make sure you take time to do these checks. You will thank me later, and I'm sure that your wallet will too. Okay, so now if you want to know how to take care of your lenses and make sure that they will last you as long as possible, this video right here will help you do that. So thank you for watching this video and see you in there.